Welcome back to Stab the Dragon, episode number 71 and whiskey review number 42. As tonight, we're going to look at Herman Marshall's Dry County Blended Bourbon. Those of you familiar with Herman Marshall Distillery in Garland, Texas, a suburb of Dallas, knows that it was the first legal distillery to start up in Dallas County since Prohibition. But now Herman Marshall, I think it's Marshall, has retired and sold out his part of the distillery to Dry County. And Herman is going to stay on and help with marketing and a few other things. But they're eventually going to be moving from Garland to Wylie, Texas, which is in East Texas. This is a blended bourbon, which is kind of a separate category under the broad label of bourbon. I've previously reviewed Herman Marshall Distillery Reserve Bourbon at 117.5 proof and the Herman Marshall Rye at 92 proof. Today's whiskey is at 90 proof in a 750 milliliter bottle. It costs $28 at Total Wine in August of 22. Now, just the facts. Total score, 78. Letter grade, a B. Recommendation. Blended bourbons are increasing in number. I think Milam and Green in Texas are making a point with theirs. They've won several awards, I think. I'm suitably impressed with this blended bourbon by Dry County, Herman Marshall, and would happily consider this to be a daily drinker. Well, I can recommend it heartily. I'm really all about in Texas whiskeys, that famous Texas funk. That's what I like. And this one does not have that at all. I can't find it. For those of you who want a Texas bourbon without that strong heat-induced funk, you should consider this whiskey. But for those who are looking for a true Texas whiskey, this one tastes more like a Kentucky bourbon to me. So it's very good, don't get me wrong. It's just not exactly what I'm looking for when I drink Texas whiskey. Will I buy this again? $28 is a very good price, but no, I'm likely not to buy it again. Now let's get to the details. History. Herman Beckley and Marshall Lewis met in a Starbucks and started talking whiskey. Marshall's from South Africa. They both had a passion for whiskey and began researching pre-Prohibition whiskeys, the recipes, methods of distilling, and formed a partnership. And they started the first whiskey distillery in Texas, or in the Dallas County area, since Prohibition. It started in 2010. By 2013, they were winning awards, including 2013 Silver Medal, 93 points, America Distilling Institute's annual spirits competition, placing second out of 400 entries for their bourbon, won Best Small Batch Bourbon in the International Whiskey Competition, and their rye won a bronze also from the American Distilling Institute as well. In November of 2021 is when they sold out to Dry County Distilleries, and the new owners do plan to relocate to Wylie, Texas. So for history, I'm going to say 5 out of 5. I like this history. It's pretty cool that it's the first Dallas distillery since Prohibition. Marketing, packaging, and bottle. I've not seen any advertising for this particular whiskey, nor have I been able to find any other reviews, which is a shame because this bourbon's really quite good. I like the new bottle and label compared with the old flask style bottle. I just wasn't a fan of. This is kind of the Buffalo Trace shape. The bottle's roughly that same shape as Buffalo Trace. So the label's got the fake parchment that looks worn and even torn and burned edges there, if you can see that. I really like that. And then the brown and tan goes well with the color of the whiskey. Just like with Iron Root, their whiskeys have a red tinge because of using that purple corn, and their labels have red on the labels. So I think that's good. It makes it look attractive. The cap is secured. I don't know. At first I thought it was wax, but I think it's actually some kind of rubber. I'm not sure. It doesn't have the same look as Maker's Mark. This is pretty even here. So you've got a rubber stopper that's also black. But the cool thing about the cap is that when it came time to open this thing, it had a tab the tab pulled around the cap perfectly. Very easy opening, and that's what I like with the bottle. I didn't have to fight with it at all. So that was, good for me. But because I can't find any reviews on this, I can't find their website's even down. I mean, it's hard to find any information about this. And so that's going to affect the score here for marketing, packaging, and bottle, 3 points out of 5. Composition. A blended bourbon must consist of 51% straight bourbon. And straight bourbon is defined as 2-year-old bourbon or older. And then bourbon is defined as having 51% corn in the mash bill. It's got to be aged in oak barrels that are charred, but there's no age requirement on just plain bourbon. It could be aged for a day or a week, whatever. So those are the requirements. So what happens to the 49%? I don't know. Where do these bourbons that are blended come from? I don't know. There's nothing published. It's probably proprietary information under, penalty of death or something if you leak it out. So we don't know what's in here. The way it tastes, to me, I think it's got some Kentucky bourbon in there, or maybe even Indiana. There's probably, quite a bit of Texas bourbon in there as well, but if it is, its warehouse is climate controlled, because I'm not getting any Texas funk here at all. Now, when you blend, think of a blended scotch, right? A blended single malt scotch. You take single malt whiskeys from different distilleries, and then you blend it to the flavor profile that you want. But then you don't release which distilleries, Similar here. You're not going to really find out where this stuff came from. And that's just, that hurt. My score system, that hurts. So only 10 out of 15 for composition. Appearance. This is a medium colored bourbon. Another clue that it likely has nothing exposed to the Texas heat. So really 3 out of 5. And that's really close though. That's not necessarily all medium. That could be a 4. I want to go ahead and give it a 4. And that's going to bump the total score up to a 79. I was just kind of waffling there on how this thing looked, and I tend to like darker whiskeys. That's just me. It's an aesthetic thing. So appearance, I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 out of 5 points. Nosing. My utterly incapable nose. I smell next to nothing here. Vaguely smells like whiskey. Perhaps some sweetness, maybe a little bit of corn, but my nose again hurts my scoring system. I'd love to be able to smell a bourbon and say, oh, it smells like plums that were picked on a Tuesday, but I can't do that. So 7 out of 10 is my basic score for the nose, just accounting for my bad nose. Tasting though, yep, tastes like bourbon. There you go. There's a hint of something like Jim Beam in there maybe, or Knob Creek in the background. Maybe it's just an overactive imagination, because as a blend, I just don't know where it's sourced from. It does, I think it does have some of the Herman Marshall bourbon in there, obviously. But see, the Herman Marshall bourbon, their straight bourbon, doesn't have the Texas funk, and so it does resemble Kentucky bourbons as well. So yes, it's got Herman Marshall bourbon in here, so it does taste like that, but without the Texas funk. This is tasting just all like Kentucky bourbon, really. Now, it's quite good. Okay, I'm not complaining. But if you're looking for that unique Texas flavor, this doesn't have it. This is made in Texas. Who knows where the blend comes from, but it's quite good. So this to me hits right in the strike zone of bourbon flavors. I'm getting some caramel, corn, barrel wood, a little bit of peanut in there, I think, and that's why I was thinking Jim Beam maybe. So all in all, it tastes really quite good. I'm going to say 21 points out of 25. Mouthfeel and finish. It does have an appropriate mouthfeel for 90 proof. In fact, it's not thin at all. I think it's got a nice, rich mouthfeel, a good tingle, a fair amount of spice in my mouth for quite a while. No Kentucky hug really, but it does get a bit in my sinuses, which is nice. I like that. There's some people who say, no, I've got to have smooth whiskey where there's no burn. Then why are you drinking whiskey? I don't know. I know taste is subjective, but I really like the mouthfeel here. I like the burn, okay? My mouth is tingling for quite a while afterwards. It knows it's had whiskey. There's, I don't know, when I first opened it, I said there was a hint of ethanol on the back end. I'm not getting that now, really. So I think I'm going to change this from a 12 to a 13 because this is not uncommon for me. Neck pores and I really don't get along, okay? As I go down, it tastes better. And I don't know if it's the whiskey that's changing or if it's my palate that's changing. I don't know. But I'm going to up that mouthfeel and finish score to 13 points out of 15. So, and that's putting me at 80 points now on the total score. So if people stayed for just the first 2 minutes of this video, then they're going to get the wrong score. That's okay. So yeah, mouthfeel, I think it's got a fairly decent long finish. I mean, I'm feeling it and tasting it still. There's a bit of wood tannin in there for sure on the finish, and the spice lingers. So all in all, this is really a pretty nice bourbon. Yeah. Let's talk about, so 13 out of 15 points there. I upped that. Price, value, and availability. $28 at Total Wine. Not available anywhere else. The Herman Marshall line was in the middle of switching over to Dry County, so finding any of this product has been very frustrating for almost the entire year. I bought their Distillery Reserve Bourbon at 117.5 proof and Total Wine Select Barrel Rye at 92 proof. I bought those back like in January or even December of last year, quite a ways back. And then all of a sudden, stuff was disappearing, and I couldn't find Herman Marshall products anywhere. I've been looking for this for a while, and they actually have, at least they used to have, an 80 proof Herman Marshall whiskey blend that I was looking for, I think, and I couldn't ever find that. And then I found this just a couple of weeks ago. So there you go. Availability is difficult because when you change ownership, you change your distillery over, you change your bottle, you change your label. Yeah, it's been hard to find, and right now Total Wine's the only place I've seen it. So that hurts the score. So availability is going to be low, but the price and the value is excellent. So I think this is a great price at $28. Good value for this quality bourbon. But availability is bad right now. So only 7 out of 10 points. Is this good? Neat. Is this a mixer? Neat is the way I drink my whiskeys. I've gone to a local distillery and had 2 local distilleries, and I've had some cocktails there that were fantastic. But I just don't get out of the house much. I mean, I don't go to bars. I don't go to restaurants. Chick-fil-A. Well, you don't get whiskey at Chick-fil-A. There you go. So this is wonderful, neat. Really, this is a daily sipper. I absolutely think so. 90 proof is perfect for this. I think it would stand up to ice if you want it on the rocks, and I really think it would do well in a cocktail. The flavors here are rich. The mouthfeel is rich. The alcohol content at 90 proof is really quite good. So 5 points for neat or mixer. Bonus points, oh, yeah, I'm a homeboy. 5 points. This is local. You know, it's in Dallas. It's going to move to Wylie, but that's still North Texas. I like what Herman Marshall has done. I have great expectations for Dry County to carry on as they move to Wylie and carry on with these whiskeys. So my total score, I have added a couple of extra points. And so originally it was a 78. Now it is an 80. And this is low due to some factors like we don't know the composition, their website's down, it's not available. So, you know, so those are some things in my scoring system that are unique to me. Letter grade reflects more the taste and quality. It's a solid B. You know, this is very good. It's just not a Texas whiskey for me. It's made in Texas, granted. The majority of the stuff in there, I'm sure, is Herman Marshall, made here in Dallas County. That's great. I'm looking for the Texas funk. This doesn't have it. So letter grade B, my recommendation. Again, blended bourbons are a thing now, and that's increasing, and I think that's a cool thing. This blended bourbon probably has some Kentucky stuff in it, I would think. Maybe Indiana, I'm not sure. So it's very good. I can highly recommend it. Great price. Availability will improve with time. But will I buy this again? Probably not. I mean, man, right now I am just all about the Texas funk and Texas whiskeys. So this is very drinkable. Enjoy. I know a lot of people aren't really into blended bourbons yet. I think this is a coming thing, and I can heartily recommend this. This is actually quite good stuff. So, my conclusion. If you want to try a Texas whiskey that does not have the Texas funk, and if you're not afraid of trying a blend, then absolutely Dry County I can wholeheartedly recommend. Here you go. And I think it's going to be increasingly found on the shelves. All right, great price at $28. Well, that's all for Stab the Dragon, episode number 71. If you aren't of legal age, it would be wise to not drink. If you do drink, don't get drunk. Stay away from guns, ammunition, work, cars, boats, airplanes, power tools, and all that other stuff. Drinking and doing things like that just doesn't work. All right, Stab the Dragon, out here.